It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
the Hyperspace
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. I'm Mike.
Yeah. There you are, Mike.
Yeah, way to go.
All right, hold on. Let me do it again. The interweb's first and only podcast. My name's Matt.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Mike.
All right.
Are you sure
We got that
about
straightened
that?
out. We got that straightened out.
Way to go.
Listen, the brain's still defrosting from the incubation chamber. It doesn't quite, it's not all at once.
Man, we've been here over a year now.
Don't.
Get with the
Everyone
program.
defrosts at their own pace, okay? I'm a slow defroster.
Apparently so.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, just hanging around my tube.
It's almost it's almost Christmas time. It's almost Thanksgiving, Christmas in the 25th century for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, as we record this, it's almost Thanksgiving. When it's released, who knows?
Yeah. It's hard to find a turkey.
Oh, forget about it.
I found a
Turkey.
paste that's kind of like turkey, though.
Oh, did you find a turkey paste?
Well, it's brown, but that's about as close as I get.
What's the flavor? Brown? Brown is the flavor?
Well, that's what it says on it, brown.
It's gravy flavored.
Oh, well, that's what you got to think.
Brown paste.
It's brown paste.
Yeah, and you get
But it's only available during the holidays, so I'm kind of assuming it's like turkey paste.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been able to find that at my local future 7-Eleven. So I'm still just rocking the normal nutrient paste for the moment.
Yeah.
But I have started to decorate my tube.
Oh yeah, but what do you use?
It's disturbing the neighbors. I have a few multicolored lights that I stashed away with me in the incubation chambers.
And those little storage spots you opted to bring Christmas lights.
Yes, I did. I figured I've got to, have some festiveness.
All right, so you brought lights. Mike brought poisonous chocolate to the future.
Yes, he did. He
bring
poisoned
anything.
a bunch of people last Halloween, if you'll remember that, and our internal podcast continuity.
that we keep track of.
Yeah, that seems to change.
It's canon for the day.
Yes. But yeah, I put up my tree, and once again, people are afraid of what I'm doing. My neighbors, they don't understand putting foliage up inside a tube. They've never seen real foliage, so
no.
it's a concrete world we live in here.
It's kind of like Coruscant, except everyone wears jumpsuits and has no hair.
It's like Coruscant crossed with Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
That's true. That's good. That's excellent. Actually.
Yeah, thanks.
That's right on.
Thanks. So what are we talking about tonight?
We'd like to do a show. I'm sure everyone has caught it, the Carbonite Chronicles, and we highlight the Mandalorian in that. And you guys found a fun little blooper, and I know it's been popping up around the interwebs, but there was a blooper that was in the last week's episode, and I kind of thought it'd be kind of funny just to kind of talk about movie bloopers that we've seen and know about.
Yeah. So you're talking about mistakes that actually made it into the movie.
Yeah. Like here, it's in it. It's part of the movie.
Yeah. It's one thing to watch a blooper reel of outtakes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those are really amusing, but when you see something that definitely should not be there in a film, that is entertaining.
Hey, how about before we talk about our bloopers, though? Why don't we take our audience in a little random space?
All right.
Random Access Memory.
All right. Guys, my random question for you today. If you could sit down for a meal with any living celebrity, who would that be? Now, I'm casting a wide net. Celebrity doesn't have to just be like actor. It can be musician, filmmaker, anybody in the public eye. Who would you sit down and like to have a meal with?
It has to be like current, like as they are today, or can I time travel this one?
Well, they have to still be alive. So I would say you'd be sitting down with the current version of this person.
All right. Okay. Why don't you lead us off, Jared?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take it. It's not really fair because I have had time to think about this. I would like to sit down with John Williams. I think that would be a fascinating conversation. I don't really know much about music. I took piano lessons in middle school, but I think it would be fascinating to just pick his brain for an hour about all the incredible music that he has made.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a foreign, language to me, music, writing music and reading music. I can't do it. And to compose it is such a unique talent that, I mean, I think, Mike, you've delved into that a little bit in your life in some regard, but it's completely fascinating to me that these people can hear the music, that they can understand the different components of what it takes to make something, work, and it's just fascinating. But I agree. I mean, John Williams if you're going to pick somebody's brain in that realm, that's the man to pick.
Yeah, I've done a score for a movie. I actually have done a score for a movie.
That was an amazing story.
Why is this not on CD?
It is. I did put it on a CD, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is this not available to the public?
I guess it's one of those things where, like, does anyone really want to hear it?
I don't know. Now you've got my interest piqued.
It was for a guy who made a movie here in Knoxville. What's it called? The Hacksaw Ridge Devil, I think is what it was called.
The Hacksaw Ridge Devil.
Yeah, it was not a great movie.
I can't imagine.
But, I mean,
a title like that.
Somebody calls and says, hey, I got a friend who's looking for someone to score his movie. Will you do it? I mean, you say, yeah, I'll do it. Sure.
The Hacksaw Ridge Devil. Maybe you could talk to John Williams about your experience composing music for the Hacksaw Ridge Devil.
Yeah, it would be on par, I'm sure.
You'd be like, hey, so when you were composing Close Encounters, was it anything like the Hacksaw Ridge Devil? No, that's...
Yeah, but the irony is that Mike would go to John Williams' house and, like, in his studio would be like a big framed poster centerpiece of the Hack Ridge or whatever, the devil.
Well,
that's his inspiration. That's his muse for everything he does.
I have to admit, though, it's actually more of a John Carpenter rip-off score. So
because it's probably
it's
synth.
all keyboards and just that whole.
Oh, sure. I mean, look, that process of writing music down. I know he still does it on the piano. Everything he does, he gets his pen and paper out.
He
and
writes it in pencil.
Yeah, he just goes and he starts with like one note and he builds it from there. And it's the process to me is just fascinating.
I did hear an interview with our favorite Star Wars director, Rian Johnson, where he said he went to John Williams' house
and John Williams kicked him in the nuts.
No. But in this room,
should have.
This giant library, he has the bound versions of every score he's written.
Like the actual pencil.
Leather bound, the pencil score he's for just about every movie he's written.
I mean, could you imagine if that ever went to auction? How much
after he dies, that thing. That either go.
Dude,
some will go to a museum.
That needs to go to a museum. My goodness. I mean, but can you imagine, insuring that?
Even Daddy-O?
Probably. But
actually, it's funny. It's funny to see like the movies that people have worked on. Like, I don't know why I was looking it up. Actually, this morning, it was remember there's an old Disney movie that came out. It was a flop, but it was like in 1983 or something like that. It's something Wicked This Way Comes.
Yes.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, I remember that.
James Horner did that score. And it's
wow.
That's
I think that's on Disney Plus.
That's like, yeah, it must be. But
I need to rewatch that because that movie actually scared the crap out of me when I saw it.
It for me as well. But reading the trivia and how they shot it, I'd like to go back and revisit it to see if it's still creepy.
It's got Jason Robards in it.
Yeah, but like
James
it's
Horner.
interesting to see like the movies that these guys participated. Maybe
They must have snagged him after he did Captain EO. Hey, while you're here,
It's funny that when they made Home Alone, John Williams was like the biggest get that they got on that movie. Like,
yeah, wasn't it like a lark? Like
yeah,
they just...
because Chris Columbus is like, well, I'd like John Williams to do the score, but we'll get somebody else. And they're like, well, let's just ask John Williams to do it. And he did it, and he had made a great score for that.
Yeah,
movie.
it's a good score.
So
Yeah,
But
You
anyway.
know what, though? From his perspective, he was probably like, oh, okay, not a big blockbuster. Because, no one knew Home Alone was going to do what it did. Maybe he just thought it was something he could check out. Well, I don't want to say check out, but something he could just like
well,
relax.
I mean, but he did the score for Home Alone is really good. I think.
No, I didn't. When I said that, I didn't mean to come across that way. I meant something that maybe like didn't have a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
I'm going to kind of stick in the sci-fi realm. Then I'll go next.
Okay.
So, I think the one I would like to sit down and have dinner with, and it would have to be in like a pretty nice restaurant, okay, with some booze going. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's William Shatner.
Oh,
And
yeah, that would
specifically because when Jared and I went to go see The Wrath of Khan together
Oh my.
on was the live, what was it called, live events or
Yeah, it was like Fathom events.
Fathom
with the-
events, and in the beginning of it was Shatner and the host sitting on a stage in like two fold out chairs, and Shatner was kind of like just going over like some memories of the movie, and he was like 9 sheets to the wind drunk,
sloshed.
just a mess. And Shatner gets into that kind of like, man, he gets that kind of like forced burp that comes up all the time, and he talks through it all the time. And so I'd like just to sit down and just chat with William Shatner right now, and just sit down and have like a good like steak dinner with a bunch of booze and watch him just like,
I have to recommend something. If you, I know Mike's seen it. I don't know if Matt's seen it.
What's that?
He did a movie called The Captains.
Oh, yeah.
And it's where Shatner interviewed Patrick Stewart, Avery Brooks, Chris Pine.
Basically,
and-
everyone who played a captain up at that point.
Scott Bakula and Captain Janeway. But when he interviews Avery Brooks from Deep Space Nine, that is complete next level weirdness, because Avery Brooks is on another planet and William Shatner is happy to follow him there. If I can find some audio from this holy crap fest, I will try to drop it in the show. But
Okay.
Avery Brooks is on mescaline or acid or something, and Shatner's just like, yeah, take me there. Okay, tell me what you're seeing right now. But it's completely strange.
What happens when you die?
Tell me.
Wish I knew. Do you have a thought? What's life going to tell you?
You look at me and wonder, you see? You look at me and
Think.
no doubt you. Yeah.
Anyway, Shatner would be a lot of fun, I think.
I tried to find that Fathom Events open. I can't find it. It's hard to find.
Oh, man, but I remember watching that with you, and we were both like, man, he is hammered. Because his face was, was all red, and
His nose bright red.
it was like, oh,
The
man,
host would ask him something, and he'd look over and like shocked and puzzled. He'd be like, "So when Spock was dying, what was Captain Kirk?" He's like, Spock.
I couldn't believe they left some of that in. I was just like, they just let the cameras roll. It was like, okay, we got it.
It's unfiltered Shatner gold.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
90 proof.
Man, Shatner, yeah, definitely.
But no, I'd like to chat Shatner up. But it'd have to be, like I said, I'd have to go and get him loose on a few drinks and then talk to him.
Well, of course, he's pushing 90 now, unbelievably, but he's still out there doing his thing, harassing people online. It's pretty awesome.
What about you, Mike?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell's good.
I like Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Plus, he just seems like just a normal guy.
Like a normal dude you could talk to.
Like a person. He seems like a person. And this guy has been around forever. He's been on. Sure. He was a Disney kid.
His father was it Bonanza?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, his father was like the sheriff in Bonanza or one of those Western shows.
Did you make that up? We better.
Is it Western? One of the Westerns? I don't remember which one.
Before we Bing Russell.
Yeah,
his name was Bing.
I think so.
Yeah, he was. He was in some Westerns. So maybe, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I could see that Kurt Russell.
You know, he worked with Carpenter for years.
One of my favorite movies, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. I mean, he's just like done a ton of stuff, and he just seems pretty grounded, and
he seems like he rolls with the punches of life pretty well.
You know, anytime he's done a commentary with John Carpenter on one of the movies, I mean, it's really fun to listen to him just talk. You know, he just chats it up. What's not to like about Kurt Russell?
I agree. I mean, he's done a lot of really good movies.
He's made sort of a bit of a comeback. He's kinda...
when he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, it was really, they had a lot of foresight shooting that footage of him in 1980 for the preview, for the prelude of the movie.
Can we find any footage of him when he was young? Is there anything out there that we can get our hands on?
We have one picture of him.
Is there an unreleased film he didn't do? I still say that Guardians prelude is some of the best de-aging I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, especially with him.
Because you know what he looks like.
It would be harder. Yeah, you know what he looks like, so there's no faking it.
Exactly.
And they nailed
because
it.
he made a lot of movies when he was that age. So, but anyway, yeah. So Kurt Russell, Shatner, and John Williams. I think we should all sit around a table with all of them and talk.
I like it. It's a good idea. Let's set that up.
Okay, well, let's try it on the hyperspace. Like I said, they're all still alive. We can get them in a Zoom meeting here.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, work on that.
You got to pay the rent.
If anyone is out there listening, to any 12 of you.
Well, I mean, we should be getting that call.
If you know any of these people.
Well, I know Shatner and Kurt Russell listen to this show, for sure.
Jared,
I don't know about John Williams.
I'm such a fan of the hyperspace.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've just essentially done a 15-minute gag reel here. So let's get into our main topic this evening.
Let's do it.
Mistakes in feature films and TV shows.
A Boise, Idaho woman is considered a medical miracle. Laura Esterman was struck by lightning nearly a month ago, and she was considered officially dead. Thankfully, CPR from her mom revived her heart, but she laid in a coma for 2 weeks, and then she defied all odds and woke up.
I should buy
Well, obviously, there was a problem with that tape. She doesn't really sound like that. She doesn't remember the accident, but the evidence is clear. I am so sorry. Laura's learning to walk again after the lightning burned her legs, and we'll have more on that story and hopefully get that tape fixed for you.
When I was thinking about mistakes, there was I'm guessing it was a PA is in the background in the most recent episode of The Mandalorian. But the really funny thing about it is people were already made an action figure for him. and you know what the thing is with that type of thing is it was done lovingly. It wasn't like anybody was, oh my gosh,
wait, set up the scene.
Guy in the background.
Set up the scene for him for the listeners. What happened in The Mandalorian?
I don't remember because I missed it when I saw it. It wasn't until the internet.
They were in the Imperial base.
Right, and they were shooting. It was because the shot is of Carl Weathers and
Gina Carano. And
you
they're
just
firing their blasters.
you see this guy's pant leg and his hand because he's covered by the bulkhead. You can't.
He's wearing a watch.
Yeah, and that's
like
the action
sneakers and jeans.
That's the action figure they made. Is this? You just see that part of his body with like a segment of the wall in front of him.
What, they name him Admiral Jeff?
No, it was Jeans Man.
Yeah, Jeans Guy or something
I
like
think
that.
they named him Admiral Jeff.
Well,
I'm pretty sure I saw an Admiral Jeff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of different versions of the figure.
So, but what I wanted to say is the thing that's cool about that is like you remember like the famous Starbucks coffee cup in that
Game
scene,
of
and people were like making fun of it, and they were kind of like, it was commenting on the quality of the show. Well, the fans of The Mandalorian loved it.
Yeah,
they loved that this guy was in the shot when he shouldn't have been, and I think it kind of shows you that they don't. It's not so precious that you can't laugh at it when there's like 100%. A mistake.
But I have to ask the question now, because The Mandalorian is one of the most expensive shows ever made. And obviously a lot of that is going into the
And so
tech.
was Game of Thrones.
And Game of Thrones, a fair point. So, but the special effects aside are spectacular. But now you have to question two things. One, you have to question the editors or the pace that they're demanding that these shows get made at. Because for such a high budget show, I'm shocked that something like that, which was pretty obvious, got through the net. The editors in it's literally, there are movies that are made for a lot less than each episode of that show. Mm-hmm. And yet the editors let that through. It's amazing to me that happened. Now, it happens in blockbusters. It happens in movies. It's not unheard of. But I'm just shocked that something so under the microscope and so expensive let something like that, which is beautifully obvious through the net.
So many moving parts. There's a million reasons why that thing.
You could say that, but this is still a 38-minute episode. It's not like you're editing like a 2-hour movie. It's 38 minutes.
It has been suggested that this may have slipped through because post-production on Mandalorian is being done by people in their homes.
Yes.
And
so they're not looking
at the same time, these people editing from their homes are still working on machines that are hyper powerful that could be in an edit bay. So it's like,
exactly. Yeah, I don't have but let me backtrack on that a second. The fact that a show which we've said The Mandalorian looks as good or better than a motion picture every week. Think about the fact that that's being done in somebody's house.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
Of course, with all the best equipment money can buy, but still, that show is basically being post-produced in people's homes.
Listen, I completely get it. And I know what happened. The editor, his kids are at home. They're homeschooled right now. They're on Zoom in the other room. He's working on that section, and two of his kids come running into the room crying that, somebody spilled ketchup on them, and he missed it.
And he created a legend.
Yeah.
And to Mike's point, I love that it's there. It's fantastic that's there. And in fact, I haven't gone back to specifically look for it yet, but I'm going to after we're done recording.
I'll be surprised if it lasts.
I hope they don't. I don't want them to remove it.
I know.
Well, but the thing is now,
in warts and all.
The thing is now, it's going to be there forever.
It's a legend.
You just have to, you can just find it now, even if they change it in the show.
Yeah,
it's going to be on YouTube for time immemorial.
It's true.
Hello there, podcast pioneers. Jared here, editing this episode. As we all know, Jeans Guy didn't even last a week, but he lives forever in our hearts and on the internet. Now, I think conversely what Mike was saying about the Starbucks cup, and there was also a water bottle in another late season episode. I think at that point people were so disgusted with Game of Thrones and the downward spiral in quality that happened in season 8. The final season of Game of Thrones for most people is a complete debacle of Last Jedi proportions. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point, people were just like, well, yeah, of course there's a Starbucks cup on the table because nobody gives a crap anymore. And, yeah, of course there's a water bottle in the shot because they're just trying to get this over with.
Yeah, you're probably right. It was a real polarizing last season, to be sure. I mean, there was people who, like, I watched the show the entire way, and I didn't hate the last season, but it certainly wasn't the way I wanted to see it. But there were people that absolutely turned on that show, like wolves turned on it, but still watched it.
But it's an interesting thing that the Starbucks cup absolutely did not get a pass. But,
no,
but Gene's
I don't
guy,
watch this show, and I but
Gene's guy is embraced.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think it has to do with kind of where your show sits with the fan base at that time.
Well, at the same time, the great thing about Star Wars is that something as innocuous and random as an ice cream maker can become part of the Star Wars legend. And to be fair, this guy will become part of the lore of Star Wars.
He'll be an Imperial officer who's off duty. Was trying to hide for his life.
That's exactly right. That he will have a story someday of who he was, and that's what's so great about Star Wars. And it's what's always been great about Star Wars is that it works its way into the story.
Well, Star Wars is no stranger to bloopers.
No.
Because there's the famous
Stormtrooper hitting his head.
Bashing his head on the door. Which Lucas purposely recreated with Jango Fett when he gets on the ship
on Slave One.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And are there others from Star Wars we can pick out?
No, I mean there's stuff flying off C-3PO from time to time.
Now I will say
there's like Easter eggs they put in there, but not I can't think of any like obvious bloopers. But
I will say A New Hope does have some funny outtakes.
Yes,
like I remember Mike made his profile picture once. This rebel soldier, they're waiting for Vader to enter the tent of 4.
Yeah.
And this guy behind this rebel soldier drops his hat on this dude. And he just has this look of complete disgust. Like,
yeah.
That's like, funny. But then
take
again,
50.
This guy can't keep his hat on.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? That guy who gave that look, if you watch A New Hope when the squib fire explodes, man, he catches like a piece of that in his eye. Like you see him wince.
Oh, does he?
Oh, he winces like a wince that you can't act. Like it's like just natural. Like it happens right by his face. He's like, oh. You gotta watch. It's
That's
there.
awesome. Okay.
Oh, you know what? I saw today, randomly, without even thinking about this topic, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Right? I've seen this movie a few times in my life, and I really enjoy it. It's not something I watch that often, but when it's on, I try and like watch pieces of it because it's a cool old style movie, and you see a lot of like pre-Tarantino in it, especially. But there's a scene in it where Clint Eastwood and I can't think of the guy's name for the life of me, but it's kind of like his partner slash antagonist, and he's I think he's the ugly in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Okay,
are blowing up a bridge, and it's crazy to watch because it's him and Clint Eastwood in the scene. Okay, it's not like stunt doubles. And they dive behind sandbags as the bridge is about to explode. And when it explodes, you have to watch because after about maybe 2 seconds after the explosion, and you can YouTube this, you see this giant, like it's probably like as big as a globe of rock from this bridge comes slamming into a sandbag right next to Clint Eastwood's head, maybe 2 feet from his head. And it's like, it was literally 24 inches away from turning his head into pudding. Clint Eastwood. Wow. But it's like, you got to watch it. It's crazy. Bridge explosion scene in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And watch how close that rock comes and almost takes him out completely.
Wow. Well, that reminds me of a blooper from Friday the 13th, Part 7. Where
Part 7? Which one was that?
The new blood.
Okay.
And the movie ends with this house blowing up. And they put so much explosive in this house that when it exploded, I mean the house, like, and if you watch the movie, you can see it. It just it just annihilates this house. They said when it was done, there was like the biggest piece was like the size someone's hand. I mean, it
Atomized it.
It was just like I mean,
Well-
if you watch the movie and you see it, I mean, it literally just obliterates this house. I mean, just completely destroys it.
It reminds me. One of you two put it on the chain. It's not a movie that it happened, but there's a great old like scene from like the early '80s or '70s when there was a dead whale on a beach that they had to
Oh
remove.
yeah, and they decided to put explosives in it.
They decided to fill it with dynamite and blow it up.
Apparently,
How else do you ever remove a whale from the beach, right?
Apparently, some old guy who had been in World War II was like, "Yeah, you're putting too much in there," and they're like, shut up, old man, you don't know anything."
Oh man,
It was like falling whale taking out cars like a mile away.
Yes, it did. It hit. Yeah.
Okay, before we get too far away from the Gene guy, I just want to say we will see. I'm going to put out this call to Charly, the cosplayer. We're going to see guys walking around with bulkheads attached to their bodies and a T-shirt and jeans on.
Yeah,
That will be a thing.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, why not? Hey, listen,
Why
like
not?
I said, the guy is now part of Star Wars, and it'd be a shame if they take him out because there is a story now. Just like the ice cream maker, there's a story
Yes.
for this guy too. So,
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're an Imperial officer or janitor or whatever the hell you're doing. That guy's got a job in the Empire or the former Empire. So, how about we go back to 1995? All right.
Okay.
One of Jared's favorite movies. Go to Mel Gibson's Braveheart.
Okay.
There's several little things in that movie which make me laugh, and I've commented on this podcast before on some of them. And it's not like it's a mistake, but it's just kind of like they saw it and they left it in because I guess it's too complicated to reshoot back then because all those scenes where all these people were running and rushing were literally all those people running and rushing towards the camera. It was not like it was CGI back then. But there's a great scene at the very end where Hamish is running, and he's got this giant axe. It's just after he threw William Wallace's sword to the battlefield, and they all charge. And when they're running, it's in like 60 frames per second, kind of slow-mo stuff. And if you watch his axe very closely, and probably if you look at some other weapons at the same time, but mainly the axe, because that's the most obvious, because he's right in the center. It is like... It's the most rubber axe, and it's like back and forth, and it's just like, oh my god! It's just like all over the place. It's like two different waves going. It's very funny to watch. And I remember I saw it in the theater when I'm like, oh my god, look at the axe! Look at the axe!
He's got a rubber axe.
He's got a rubber axe.
You can't defeat the English with a rubber axe.
The English, oh, so funny. I love that rubber axe. But they left that in, and it was really obvious. And he's like running at the camera, and at the end, he's right by the camera with a rubber axe swinging around. So, but there's another blooper in that movie. If you look, I forget which battle scene it was. There's so many battle scenes. But if you look in like the back left corner of one of those, there's a car driving by.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. It's like real quick. It's like right behind like one of the horses on the left side of the screen. You see this car driving. So there's a time traveler.
That's awesome. Now I have one, and this one actually, it's from Back to the Future.
Okay.
And this actually got several articles written about it in Starlog magazine. I remember this. So in the scene at the beginning of the movie, right before Doc gets shot by the terrorists, he's standing in front of them, and he throws his pistol away. You know, when they've got him, he's got his hands up. He throws his pistol away, and as he throws the pistol, if you look way in the background, you see somebody walk across this lighted sign way in the background. It's some probably they never identified who it was, but it's a person, probably maybe a crew member or some random person that got onto the set. But you can see him; he's in the frame. So, Starlog magazine wrote this article called "The Other Marty McFly," and sure. They postulated that this person you see in the background was Marty McFly coming back early, like he does at the end of the movie, and we were seeing him there. However, this Marty McFly is returning to a reality where his parents are losers and Biff is his dad's boss because, that's where we are right there in the story.
Right.
So the whole article was based around this one little dude in the background and how what did he do to ruin things to come back to this particular shut up, cat. Bloopers. There's my cat. So what did that Marty do to come back to that nightmare that he's going into? Whereas, the Marty at the end of the movie comes back to a massively improved life.
So that's fascinating. That's cool.
So next time you watch Back to the Future, watch for this little shadowy figure way in the background right before Doc gets shot. He's there. He's clear as day. You can see him very plainly.
Wow, I've never heard of that. You should have pointed that. We saw that in the
Seems
theater.
like I have heard of that, but I heard I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Because there's
did you know about that when we saw it as a re-release?
Yeah, I've known about this since the 80s.
Oh, man,
when
we
I was
should have pointed
reading
it out.
I should have. But Starlog magazine, they actually brought back the continuing adventures of the other Marty McFly every time they release a Back to the Future movie. And, it would just go into more detail about what this sad, horrible existence Marty is living now. And it all stemmed from that one strange piece of film that was left in the movie.
Isn't that great?
Here, I have something that fits in with what you just said.
Okay.
Do you remember the story on The Wizard of Oz?
Sure.
Have you ever heard that, Jared?
Yes.
Where there's the scene...
I've seen the video clip, and
it's right before. It's when they're at with the Tin Man, and in the background you see movement.
Yes,
and there was a story going on that was one of the little people hung himself.
Yes,
in the background.
But it was not that. It was something.
else. It was just something. Birds. It's like there's birds on the set, and the birds were moving.
Yeah,
around.
they were all kinds of terrible stories about the Munchkins on the set of Wizard of Oz, like having orgies and stuff.
Yeah, well,
it's like what? And then, of course, all that was.
I think
bull
Judy
crap.
Garland told a lot of those stories because I remember hearing some from.
I mean, apparently the little people were quite a bunch of alcoholic pervs, actually, and that's not that's not a falsehood. That's like. That was legit. Like, they tore it up.
I saw the last two living Munchkins when I lived in Nashville.
Oh, did you? And they went on tour?
They were at this brand new mall. The mall at Matt, you even know this place. It was that new mall they had built when we went there for the Hurricanes. They were there at a shop signing autographs at that Opry Mills.
That's a big mall.
Yeah. And I remember walking by and just looking at them saying, man, those are the last two Munchkins living. The stories they could tell. But then I didn't go in and talk to them. I just saw them from the hallway. And anyway. And
we represent the Alcohol Guild. The Alcohol Guild. Can't get into it.
Isn't it funny, though, how those stories, travel? Because, we were
legends.
In 3 different places, and we all heard that story,
the
different
urban
states.
legend. Well, listen, the internet is an amazing thing.
Well, this is before the internet.
Yeah, of course. So, how about things in movies that are mentioned that didn't make the movie? I'll give you a good example. Like Mike's favorite movie, The Goonies, which is not his favorite movie, but in The Goonies at the very end, and it's funny. It puzzled me watching the movie until I played the video game.
Are you talking about the octopus?
The octopus. So at the end, they're recanting their story to the parents and the reporters. Like, the octopus was the most scary. And I remember thinking, what octopus? That wasn't in the movie.
You know what I thought? I thought he was just lying.
Did you? I didn't think he was lying. I thought I missed something. I thought
he just threw it in to embellish what they'd already.
I just thought that I missed something in the movie. Like, oh, what octopus? But then I played the video game and I saw where the octopus was. But no, of course, we all know now it was a cutscene that they didn't include, but yet they kept that in the later explanation edit. So there's little fun things like that.
Here's something we've talked about recently when we talked about Superman 4. I'm not going to beat up that movie anymore. We've beat that horse completely dead.
It beat itself.
But there is something. It's an interesting phenomenon when you're watching Superman 2, and one of you guys briefly mentioned this, is that it's not a blooper per se, but it's irreconcilable when you're watching it. When you go from Richard Donner footage to Richard Lester footage,
yes,
it is, and they're wearing the same clothes, but Margot Kidder looks like she's aged 18 years.
She looks like she lost a lot of weight or something.
Yes, she's like gaunt. Like in one scene, especially in the finale of that movie when Zod and those guys are wrecking the place, she at times looks exactly like she did in the first Superman movie. Then the next scene, again, aged 15 years, wearing the same clothes. What? When I was a kid, I was like, what is happening? I mean, I noticed it. And
you know where I've noticed that type of thing is Lord of the Rings, especially the Two Towers with Ian McKellen. There are scenes where they, like, especially in Rohan in the King's Hall, when he's given some exposition, and I swear to you, they'll go to a shot of Ian McKellen, and then they'll go to someone else, and they'll come back, and you can tell it's a reshoot.
He looks
and then
totally
they'll go
different
to someone else, and then they go back, and he's like he was previously.
Well, in those movies, even like Sean Astin, you can tell like put on like or lost weight or put on weight like noticeably on like the retakes. I think he lost weight because he was heavier in the movie, and then he left movie and lost a ton of weight, and they had to do reshoots, and it's obvious.
I tell you where reshoots are obvious as well is the Phantom Menace. In certain scenes, like Ewan McGregor got this pseudo crew cut for Obi-Wan, and there are scenes where the reshoots are given away because he no longer has the crew cut. His hair is styled in a way to make it look like a crew cut. And it's...
Oh, I've never noticed that.
Yes, you can... and once you see it, you can't unsee it because he goes from legitimately short hair to hair that's been gelled back.
I gotta watch that.
And also, Joke Lloyd, he ages... His age... I mean, he's in a period of his life where he's growing a lot anyway.
Sure. Let's do a barrel roll. That's a good trick.
There's one scene where Qui-Gon and him are sitting on his porch and they're doing the midichlorian test, and Jake Lloyd is legit like a year and a half older in that scene than he is in the rest of the movie. So it's just things like that.
Well,
pull you out of it a little bit.
Well, it's funny. It reminds me on our episode when we talked to Mike's friend, the ager and dyer.
Paul,
that's right. Where he was working with the Stranger Things kids.
And they kept changing their clothes because they kept growing.
That's fascinating, though. It's fascinating when you think about it.
But they have to make them look
the
same.
And he's like, shit. He's like, I'm out of sweatshirts. I got to find a sweatshirt that this guy's going to wear in 6 months. That's just amazing.
Yeah, that's why, it's difficult working with kids because they keep growing.
Yeah, that's right.
So
kids and animals.
What are some other...
Well, your story about Ewan McGregor reminds me, if you watch the original Night of the Living Dead, they shot the opening scene, they shot last. And so the zombie that's in that scene was hand-picked after they'd shot the majority of the movie, and George Romero asked the guy that he was one of the featured zombies. He's like, you want to be in the beginning part? And the guy was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Well, he had a crew cut while they were shooting the movie, but when they went to shoot the open, his hair had grown, so you can see that his hair is longer. But they did the sort of the same thing that they've combed it so that it's like close to his.
Yeah.
His
well,
scalp.
they did reshoots on that 20 years later too, and
it was
really
like
good.
Just so people understand, if this was right after the Star Wars Special Edition came out, some of the people who worked on Night of the Living Dead, not George Romero, decided, hey, what'd be cool is if we re-released Night of the Living Dead and we shot some bonus scenes for it. This was not a good idea. And this was 35 years later, and so the idea was to and this was the same guy that I was just talking about. They thought, hey, well,
the initial zombie.
Yeah, Bill Heinzman. And they're like, hey, we'll just bring him back and we can shoot a little origin story for his character. Well, he had aged so much that he actually wore a mask
that looked like him.
But it didn't, because in order to put the mask on his head, it was bigger than the way his face was.
It looked
when he was 35
dumb.
years younger. Oh God, that's one of the few things that Harry Knowles wrote this scathing review of this thing, and it's like the only thing he's ever done that I was like, well, yeah, he's right about that.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. It's on YouTube. Look it up. It's awful. Matt, what were you gonna say?
It just popped in my brain. It was a random little tiny little blip up in a movie, but there was a movie, I think 1988, I guess, or 87, The Great Outdoors with John Candy.
Oh, yes.
Remember that one?
I know that one. Heck yeah.
So there's a scene where he's eating the old 96er, right? Which, if you haven't seen the movie, John Candy is and his family are in the Great Outdoors, and they go in like a little like local mountain restaurant, and the contest is if he can eat a 96-ounce steak, he eats it, he gets it for free or something like that. He eats it for free. So he's like, I can do this. So he wants to be eating the whole thing, and then in the end, they make him eat the gristle and the fat and all that stuff. And so the scene immediately following that is they get back to the house where he rushes in and he throws up. So what happens is the entire family moves across the house, disappears in a room. He then throws up, and then they all run out disgusted. If you watch that scene, when they all cross into the other room, you still see the shadow of like three of them. Dan
Aykroyd?
Dan Aykroyd being one of them. And as soon as they get to the other side, you see Dan Aykroyd in his shadow give them a 1, 2, 3. And then they all scream and go. So he gave them the count. You see his shadow plain as day on the wall. and there it is. But it was like that always like stuck out to me. I'm like,
I've never
wow.
noticed that. I've seen that movie several times. I've never saw
Next
that.
time you watch it, just watch their shadows when they disappear in that room. You'll still see them, and he'll go 1, 2.
Something else about The Great Outdoors, when John Candy and Dan Aykroyd are sitting on the porch, they are drinking out of Burger King Empire Strikes Back glasses.
Oh, are they really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So what else stands out? Does anybody else have any?
Well, this is a non-movie one, but this is pretty obscure. But it's one of those things I've always thought was just hysterical. Is you remember the Brady Bunch had a variety show?
Yes.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I remember me and my friend Brian were watching it, and because it was really bad. And they have a skit they do where they're on roller skates, and there's a scene where they're roller skating to the side of the rink, and is it Barry Allen? Is that the guy who played
Barry
Greg
Williams?
Brady? Barry Williams. Where it's like they're rolling towards the side, and it is clear that he is in the process of wiping out. I mean, there's no, like, you see his arms flail, but they immediately cut to a shot of him just like rolling up,
He's
like
okay.
everything. Yeah, but like that shot that they took before, like, because my friend turned and Brian looked at me and goes, did he just fall? And I'm like, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, he wiped out. I mean,
Well, it's funny that actually we just talked about this one the other day on the podcast. Was In American Graffiti is a famous one.
Oh yeah, that one worked out to benefit the movie.
That was hilarious. Where the guy Terry the Toad rolls up on his little Vespa and he doesn't know how to stop it.
Is it Ron? It's Ron Howard sitting right
And
next
Ron
to him.
Howard's standing there, and
Ron Howard is what makes that work, because he has this completely impassive look on his face.
Like,
while
what are you
Toad
doing?
is like, he can't stop. I mean, this thing's like got a mind of its own. It just keeps going.
Well, he kind of
Ruined
almost
that
stops
take.
it. That's the best part. He like brings it to like almost stop, and then it guns.
Takes off.
Oh man, he just loses control of it. I'm gonna drop that in the group. That's too good not to.
But that's a really good one. It's really funny. It's just I think it's amazing to me that Ron Howard didn't break.
Man.
And then like
if he had, what a lost scene it would have been.
The guy playing Terry just kind of gets off and stands up and puts his hand on his head like, oh crap.
Hey, you know where we should use that? Right at the beginning of the movie.
All right, we've got some good ones there, I think.
But to round back to Mike's original point with The Mandalorian, these are gems that you get to walk away with, especially when they stay in the movie. They become part of the movie and part of the fun of it. And in this new age of such amazing digital technology, you kind of hope that these things still find their way, like they did in The Mandalorian. I hope they stay because it's part of the fun to think back and to remember them like this.
Yeah, they are increasingly rare these days, as Matt said. With digital technology, it's easy to remove them, but they're there if you look for them close enough. So, anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I'm going to go ram my Vespa into a vending machine.
Go look for that turkey tube paste.
Yeah, I'll go see if I can find some of that. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next week on the Hyperspace.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.